Let me see here. Hello, my friends. This is Noel OG del Rancho. And I know I haven't streamed or put an episode. I know people have been asking for it. But, you got to take a break. Things are seasonal. There's a season to plant. There's a season to crop. There's a season of rest. And to be honest, man, this YouTube area is it's a little weirdo. Oh, there we go. Anyway, hope people shoot through. I'll just be here for now, I guess. Oh, it looks like I got 5 people. Hello, everybody. Go ahead and comment in the thing so I know who's up in here. We can keep the conversation going. I don't know if you guys were following. I was on a live right now with this weirdo, man. This is why I kind of been staying away from YouTube. There's a lot of weirdos who become very obsessive. Kind of reminds me of Swim Fan. I don't know if you guys ever seen that movie Swim Fan from back in the day, but it's just kind of like obsessive ex-girlfriends. And you can tell that they dwell on you, that they think about you off the internet. And it's just like, man, that's not something I ever even aimed for. I'm just some random dude who got caught up in Twitter at an interesting time in history and sharing and just kind of making friends. I like making friends. I like building up networks. I like connecting, especially with Hispanics. I think that we should build each other up, and I try to share how I see things that I've learned, things that I've picked up, and I share it with the youngins. I share it with other dudes. There's a value in that network, and I'm all about that. So that's all I've really been about. Obviously, out of this, something else grew out, and I see that there's actually an opportunity here, and I think a lot of us are hungry for kind of an alternative media source that's really built around us and our experience. And that's kind of where I'd like to grow this thing into. So I had to take a step away to kind of really measure out that opportunity, really measure out, the plan of attack. Um, and so that's really why I've been away. And you guys saw that I rebranded the channel. I took myself off because I really don't want to make it about me. I want to make it about the bigger reality beyond the egos. Aside from the creepy people, as you guys saw, Rum, I don't know, you were listening, man. That guy was weird, bro. That was really weird. There's a creepy vibes. And the shit is, dog, that's not the first time. That's not the second, third time. There's just a lot of weird people on the internet who become very obsessive. And you got to protect it. You got to protect yourself from it. I like to stay prayerful and just keep space, because a lot of people out there been trying to cast voodoo on me. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. It was I don't even want to give that guy I'll do it because I see you on the chat sometimes, Ignacio. So it's culturally Hispanic or culturally that weirdo. He's some weirdo. You might have seen him sometimes. He talks about like our glory isn't here. We need to give glory to the white man and the black man or some shit like that. He's just a weirdo. I was actually on there with an ADOS cat who's really cool. Nakmeezy, he's a smart guy. He elicits respect because he doesn't act like the ratchet kind. So, but and we disagree and we agree, and we were just having a nice conversation. This guy was just being weird every 5 minutes or so. He's this guy's I think he's like a Puerto Rican Dominican, but he's more of a New Yorkican, and I guess he's mad that Guatemalan immigrants took his job, and he takes it out on me because he thinks that I'm saying Guatemalan immigrants should come here, and I'm not even necessarily pro immigration. I don't think coming to the United States is necessarily a good thing. He's still yelling Morena said. Am I able to highlight this? Okay, cool, because I'm using my phone. I haven't been on this thing in a while. And I never really use my phone when I'm on a stream. Can you guys hear me? Is the sound okay? This is the first time I'm actually doing it on my phone on my channel. Anyways, what's up, Santiago? ¿Cómo estás? That was weird, man. I still got a creepy ass vibe right now. Is my sound good, you guys? Just testing. Okay, cool. Man, I feel weird. I feel, like when something creepy around you happens, like when you walk into a forest and you feel like a weird force. That's what it feels like. Me voy a tener que persinar 3 veces because that's what I'm saying. You see, this is why I had to take a little bit of space from YouTube, dude, because there's just people, dog. I get people who randomly hit me up because again, I never hid my name, I never hid my face, so somehow they get my number. But I never even hid my number. Like I shared my number with people online. I got more than one phone, so I shared a phone number with people online, and then random people call me, dog, and they leave messages of like guns clicking, and I'm talking about like white, racist, white supremacist types. Then I get like creepy people like radical Latino and this culturally guy who like you can tell they dwell on me. I'm nobody. Like I'm just some dude. Maybe I got a little bit of a gift of gab, but I'm just some dude. I'm nobody. But these people, you could tell they got a lot of pent up anger and frustration at me. And once in a while, it blows up. It blows up, and it's just kind of That's a good point, man. Quick prayer. It just blows up um, in my face on YouTube on streams. And I gotta admit, man, it's uncomfortable because I don't do this because I'm looking for fame. You know what I'm saying? I'm just looking to connect with my community, connect with interesting Hispanics all over the world, different parts of the country, and try to build networks out of that. That's all I've been doing. It's just what I do naturally in real life and off the internet. So, man. Santiago, I feel like prayer is better than me, man. I wish. Here, I'm gonna shoot you something. Yeah, bro, I get it from white supremacists. I get it from black supremacists. I get it from weird Latinxers like this dude. Um, and it's just like, I got a wife and kids, so I got to think about them more than anything. I don't really care what the world does to me. If I die, I die. I know God will take care of them, but still, it's just uncomfortable. It's not something that I sought. It's not something that I was looking for when I decided to do this stuff. Yeah, bro, that guy was he was projecting a lot of stuff onto me. Anyways, I'll say a quick prayer. So, O Lord Jesus Christ, only begotten Son of thine unoriginate Father, thou hast said with thy most pure lips, for without me ye can do nothing. My Lord, O Lord, in faith having embraced thy words, I fall down before thy goodness. Help me, a sinner, to complete through thee thyself this work which I'm about to begin. En el nombre del Padre, el Hijo, y el Espíritu Santo. Amen. Yeah. I don't even know. It was I don't even know this guy's channel, dude. It's just some guy who goes by culturally Hispanic or cultural political. I don't know. This guy for sure has like 6, 7 different aliases for sure, because I could just tell a lot of the shit that came out of his mouth right now was like shit that I've read in comments from weird people. Knock, check your Instagram, dude. Check your Instagram. I shot it to you there. And if anybody's in any of the GCs, I shot the link in there too. Uh, I'd love to open it up to everyone else, to be honest. But again, there's just so many weirdos online. A lot of people come on here and like show dicks and do gay shit. So if you want to hop on, you gotta somehow hit me up directly so I know it's you. Otherwise, I really can't let you in. Sorry, just gotta take these measures. Let me just check something real quick here. Okay, should be good now. me see here. Okay. Oh man, maybe I should light some incense and a candle because I can still feel that energy. I was demonic, man. I don't know if you guys believe in demons, but I do, man. And they're out there. And especially if you're angry, if you're emotional, you know, that's when they sneak in. You got to be really careful. You got to really be on guard because Satan's behind everything, and he can twist anything into working for him. So you guys really got to be careful. And right now, if you were watching that stream, you definitely saw a demon come out. Palo Santo, for real. Let me see what's going on here. No, okay. I'm literally lighting a candle and some incense because that shit was weird. That's all I can say. It was just weird. And I felt the same energy from Radical. Same energy, like the same tone, the same anger. All right, hold on. I'm gonna drop it again, guys. I'd love for any of you guys to hop on. You're more than welcome to. But if I don't know you and you haven't hit me up directly, how do I know it's you? Unfortunately, fuck, knock. It is. Hold on, I gotta find a way to get the link on because it's on my phone. I gotta get it. I think I know how. Give me 1 second. Mark, nothing, man. It was just you've probably seen it with me here before. It's just people who you could tell have like a personal thing against me. They've been dwelling on me offline, and you know, a demon of anger just takes over them, and they just kind of lash out. And this guy was just very like, just he was fuming. Um, and he just lashed out at me, and it was creepy, man. That's really what it was. It was just creepy as fuck. Okay, I think I got this. 1 second. Yeah, no, I need to lay off the streams. Yeah, I mean, I haven't even been on streams, dude. Honestly, I haven't been on any of this stuff at all. I really been busy with work and really on the background, just trying to work on like what I see that we can build. I think there's a legitimate business, a legitimate company we can build around Momento Hispano. And so I've been working with some guys that I've met, some really impressive young men and older men that I've met through this stuff over the course of time. And so we just been kind of working on that in the background, trying to see what we're really going to launch, what we're going to put out. So I really haven't even been on the streams. That's why I took my name and I took myself off the brand and just made it about Momento Hispano because it's really bigger than me at this point. And again, I don't want fucking demons preying on me, dude. And that's what these people be on. What made him tick? I really don't know. He's mad that some Guatemalan took his union job, and I guess he thought I sent the Guatemalan to take his union job. I have no idea, man. He was just being weird, bro. He was just being creepy. Oh, okay, I see you. Let me see here. Got it. Yo, what's up, Doc?
Dude, was that the weirdest shit ever?
That was weird, man. It was like a moment for an exorcism.
For real. I mean, we literally had like synchronized. What the hell is he talking about? You know, it was. I'm looking at the phone. People thought I fell asleep, but I was just in awe at how his logic didn't make sense. I picked that up from the beginning. You would try to explain things. There was really no angle, and he just didn't like you. But, thanks for trying to put him and say he was culturally black. That was some real culturally Hispanic shit that he did right there.
Dog, my wife just woke up and she just came out. She's like, "What happened? I had a weird dream." I'm not kidding, dog.
Wow.
That shit was weird. Nothing, honey. You heard me. I was on a stream right earlier, but you were kind of hearing from far away. And this guy just lashed out at me like demonically. Like he just wanted to kill my guts. And like when Radical, you remember that one time Radical did the same energy, same vibe, just like this demon of anger. And it's funny because this dude's calling me a socialist or a liberal, and then the Radical says that I'm like a white supremacist, fascist. So, man, you see, YouTube's weird, dog. And I saw that you took a break too, so I'm sure you can relate. There's just a lot of weird energy that you can attract by trying to take a leadership initiative by saying, you know what, I'm gonna go out there and speak on some things that people need to speak up on. uh I'm sure you could relate.
Yeah, you try to stand up, and it's like trolls will actually try to take this from YouTube and destroy your life. I had people try to reach out to my job, uh, with just weird stuff, try to dox me, and I'm just like, just for speaking up. That's why I said, you know what, it's probably best that I leave this platform, this space, and I focused on my studies for a minute. But I'm kind of addicted. When I have nothing to do, I'll come back.
Yeah, exactly. It is fun, it is fun, but it can get draining, especially, you got a lot of people you don't know who know you,
Right.
and they're dwelling on you, right? They're like doing some mental voodoo on you. And you know that shit's real. That shit's real, dude. So it's just it causes you to kind of put the mic down a bit.
Yep. But anyway, so now we're on a higher vibrational plane here, so maybe we can
Yeah,
have
yeah.
legitimate conversations without,
An
yo,
interesting
I'm
conversation.
rah rah, I'm rah rah, I'm gonna whip your ass, come to my hood, but I won't show my face. Uh,
Yeah, that was weird, dude.
Asking about your family, where you were baptized, your business name, like what?
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah, that's when I knew it's like, oh, this is personal, right? It's no longer even about arguments or point of views. And what you notice is that I actually didn't disagree with him, right? Like
Right.
I'm
You
actually,
weren't in the yes.
but still he kept putting it on me that I don't necessarily think, for those in the audience, I don't think immigration en masse is a good thing. Really, the reason why I think is because it's a cultural threat. I think when you come here, you lose your roots inevitably, and that has consequences. Now, the sad thing today is that you don't even need to come here, because if you're on an iPhone, if you're on Instagram, if you got a Netflix subscription, it doesn't matter if you're in Chile or Colombia, you're still kind of losing some of those roots and adopting other ones. And I think
Right.
Hispanics here, were at least, of my class, we're kind of more sensitive to it because we see it. We're on the front lines. You know what I mean? And yeah, so it's weird because I didn't disagree with him. I'm talking about how labor's being exploited, and that's not good for the people who are from here, the people from south of the border. So it was just weird that he had to get personal about it. But it's not the first time, and I'm sure it won't be the last time. So
No.
it just comes with the territory. But I wanted to chat. Let's actually continue on where we were at some point in the conversation. I was trying to, because you had said something about, I'm not necessarily against immigration if it's legal, if it's for skilled labor, and I had said, you know what, skilled labor, legal immigration is also bad for labor, because I have friends, actually white friends. I actually do have white friends, people, and
Of course you do.
these 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 dudes have lost their jobs, and they've been in positions where they've had to train like an Indian immigrant on their job, their cushy engineering job in Silicon Valley, where this Indian's going to make less than half of what he makes, which is still a good salary, but still. Um, so I think, and beyond that, really the biggest consumer of jobs is automation, and it's not even like factory workers now. Now it's like paralegals aren't needed, right? Now it's like a lot of even like surgeons, because you can like make a robot that can do surgery better than certain surgeons. So I think the question's a lot bigger. I'm not trying to ignore immigration. again, I agreed with this guy. I think it's a bad thing because, it's exploiting labor. And I think the other bad part about it is that it allows America to stick its tentacles into our countries. So we actually agreed. But again, I think the conversation needs to be opened up a bit, because we're at a point now where, like I was saying, if I wanted to hire somebody to like design something for me, graphic design work or something like that, I don't even need someone near me. I can just get someone from India to do it for me, for dimes on the dollar. And that's just the reality of the world now. That's just a world that technology is allowing, that globalization is allowing. And I think, we need to bring it into those parameters.
I agree with you 100%. And when you said it, I'm like, damn, I kind of misspoke. And I'll give you an example. I'm a proud Black American, but currently based in Europe, right?
Yeah.
And when they got rid of the borders here and made it to European Union, what happened is they started to get an influx of cheap Eastern European labor, right? So truck drivers were doing the work that normal, like let's say a German or a Dutch person would do for pennies on the euro,
Right.
and it had
Like
a
the
negative
the
effect on the
Polish in
economy.
England, the Polish in England are like the Mexicans of England.
And now check this out. I had an argument with a guy at work, a Polish guy.
Mhm.
And I told him, I came here because I wanted to. You came here because you had to. And you are the Polish. I said, you Polish people are the Mexicans of England. I told him that straight up.
Yeah.
Because he is like essentially a migrant, like an economic migrant. So yes,
Right.
you made a great point. And I'll give you this in Thailand, right? I've been there as well.
Yeah.
You can't get a job in Thailand unless you have a skill that a Thai cannot do. So it's really not skilled labors, but a specific thing that you can do that
Right.
maybe no other Thai person can do. Then they'll give you a job like that. Otherwise, it has to be an American company or an English company that brings you there. So yes, and even a bigger challenge is automation. That's
Yeah.
why I try to push my people, to learn code, to learn trades that cannot be replaced by machines. And if it is a trade, then you need to learn how to that can be replaced. Then you need to learn how to program and operate these machines. So I won't argue bullshit. You were right, and I misspoke.
Yeah. 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 No, it's just something, because I know it happened to two people that I go to church with. They literally had to train their replacement from India. And they were on their way out, because these are older gentlemen who were approaching retirement, but they weren't quite there. And they basically just you know pull their card, had them train a younger Indian guy who just got here on I don't know what kind of visa they bring him in. Um, but and that young guy, he's glad to be making dollars, right? But he's not getting paid what an American would be getting paid. So it's just kind of a mess. It's just kind of a mess what globalization and technology is bringing us. It's easy to look at the positive, but I think a lot of people don't measure the marginal costs that are involved with these things. And I think at the end of the day, as a world, right, we need to like ask ourselves, like, how much of this technology do we want? Let me get this guy out of here. I mean, we don't have to uh, we don't have to just keep drinking technology till we're drunk. We could say, you know what, this is enough.
Yeah, I agree. Like now you have people that if you can't have it instantly, like people don't want to do research, people don't want to read anymore. We're going into a direction that I think has no long-term success. You
Yeah,
understand?
yeah, totally. And it's being led again. We touched on this earlier about elites who they may think that they're getting their agenda met, but I don't know what your spiritual views are on things, but I do believe Satan exists, and I do believe he gets involved in everything. And I think a lot of people are led astray, and they're led into traps. And
Hmm.
these elites may think that they're winning, but I think at the end of the day, they're actually just, it's like a snake that eats its own tail. At the end of the day, like they're
Right.
they're gonna consume themselves in that process.
Yeah, spiritually, I'm kind of like I believe that there's good and evil in all of us. You know, I don't really deal with like the Bible and those Abrahamic religions and stuff like that, whether it be Islam or Christianity or anything like that. I really believe in work and merit. You know what I'm saying? Almost karma, but you know, you have situations where people have been POSs their whole life and then retire fat and happy. So I'm still kind of figuring that out. I think the spiritual thing is more personal,
Yeah,
but I just like to respect people, and I hope that I get respect back. And if you're not respectful, then I don't deal with you. You know?
of course, of course. Yeah, I mean, yeah, yeah, but even if I think people in the audience may not have a Christian view on things, that's fine. But I think we can all attest that there is like a good and evil in the world, and
Absolutely.
there is things that can't be seen or measured, but they do exist. I think if you listen to that stream we're just on, you're gonna get the sense of the demonic coming out. Uh, so I think if anything's proof is something like that. Um, but I'm glad to actually finally chat with you. I think a lot of people get surprised when, I mean, for me it was surprising the whole ADOS thing
Right.
because it's something that I had been saying. Like I went down the rabbit hole of your channel and some of the other channels that you're kind of associated with in that corner of YouTube. And I actually there's because I follow them, and so sometimes it comes in with my feed, and I'll screenshot some of the posts. I think her name is Empowering ADOS or something like that.
Yeah, that's my sis right there.
Yeah, and I'm like, and I get it. She's trying to promote her people, trying to pep them up, and do and call things out as she sees it. But it's actually refreshing to me because I've been saying this stuff the whole time. When I'm trying to explain to people Hispanics, I'm like, you can't make it about race because we're not carrying around a DNA test, but the reality of humanity, to give people, right, the reality of humanity is ethnic, right? Do you speak the same language? And I don't just mean the language of the mouth, but like kind of the body language, the mental
Right.
language, the non-spoken language, right? Do you have the same customs, cultures, and traditions? Those are the things that actually allow humans to program with each other, and those who you share the most with is who you're going to be able to program the most with. And so I've always a lot of you ask me, why do people say I'm racist? It's because when I kind of came on the scene, I was basically saying what you guys say, that look, just because I've heard this from black people, all skin folk ain't kinfolk,
And
right?
kinfolk. Yep.
Yeah, because just because someone shares, I mean, some people might say that I look Middle Eastern, or I look North African, or I look Sicilian, or I look Central Asian, right? But just because I look like them, I'm supposed to have the same. I'm on the same boat as them. Like, no, I might have something more in common with Andy, for lack of a better example, even though he's a retard too. But why? Because, well, he's Hispanic. He speaks my language. He understands me without me having to talk very much. Because we come from the same civilization, for lack of a better term.
Right.
Um, and so that's kind of what I was saying. I was saying that, like, and from my perspective, and I know you'll disagree, but from my perspective, I was calling it out, like, because this is how I saw it. Maybe I don't necessarily see it this way anymore, but I think there's something to it. I saw it like African Americans, I mean, ADOS, were kind of imperializing this kind of thing that called black identity, where it's like, because I see this with Anglos, with white Anglos, right? I see that white is like an Anglo copyright, like they own the white, and like, are Poles white? Well, when we need them to be, but when we need to bomb Serbia, Serbia is not white anymore, right? um, to me, I see white identity as kind of this artificial identity that's pretty much an Anglo copyright. And sometimes people are allowed to use it, sometimes it'll be taken away from them, right? And so I kind of saw the same phenomenon with Black Americans in that. And now I realize it's actually the West Indians get involved a lot in this. And it's interesting when you start looking at it that way. But I looked at it like, oh, they're trying to take away, like,
Hold on 1 second, Rancho. Give me 1 second.
yeah, go ahead. Yeah, this it's 1 o'clock where I'm at. Uh, I'm just kind of shooting the shit. There's really no rhyme or reason to this stream. I was on another stream and it got weird, and I decided to migrate the people we were talking to over here. Santiago, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, how are you?
¿Cómo estás?
Muy bien. Yeah, I missed that last stream that you were talking about, but doesn't sound pleasant.
It was weird, dude. It was so weird, man. It's just like you could feel the personal obsession, whether it's
Right,
like to
right.
hate or to adore. It's just weird. You shouldn't. Nobody should build another human up that much in their minds. We have saints and we have Christ, and those are the people who deserve to be built up in our minds, not other humans. And you could just feel that vibe, and it creeped me the fuck out, bro. It creeped me the fuck out.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, these people sometimes they'll have weird issues and things, and they project that onto other sort of patriarchal, strong men with opinions that are against the mainstream, and they
Yeah,
anger out
this
there.
this dude is like a magatard, but he's like a New Yorican magatard. So he
Okay.
he calls himself culturally Hispanic, but like he seems to hate Hispanics, and especially like Mesoamericans, like Mexicans, Central Americans, South Americans. He's half Puerto Rican, half Dominican, but he's a New Yorican. He grew up in a project filled with asbestos. You could tell by his intellect. But he's like a dude who's hoping for a rent controlled apartment that he can inherit, and he has a union job that pays him $40 an hour, and he's mad that the Guatemalan immigrants or the immigrants from Puebla are taking the jobs and they don't speak English. And he's like, this is my country, you need to speak the language here. And at the same time, he's like, this isn't our country. We're guests here, and we need to give glory to the white man and the black man. And I disagree with a lot of the shit he's saying, and I actually agreed on some of the shit he was saying. But we can agree and disagree on many things. I don't think there's anyone in the world we're gonna agree with 100%. But you shouldn't take that personal, right? There could be something you can glean off even your enemy if you're astute enough, right? You should be able to use your enemy to even benefit you in a certain way.
All right, I'm back.
Yeah, you're back.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. It's all good. What I was saying earlier, just to hop back into that conversation, was I saw it when I first got on here, was like, because again, let me explain to you my little thesis about Momento Hispano, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this guy misconstrued it. For me, it's just simply a matter of demographics, right? So when you look at Latin America, South America, Iberoamerica as a whole, you're looking at a huge piece of land. We're talking about Mexico all the way down to Argentina. You're talking about a population that gets close to 700 million people, whose average age is 20, right? So you're talking about a population who's just getting into family formation stage, which means that those numbers can only kind of swell. At least they should naturally. And there is a connection to the United States in the sense where, yeah, of course, I mean, you know us, you even speak a language, so you've lived amongst us, so you know that there's more of us today than there was when you were a little kid, and the trend is only kind of continuing. I don't know if you know, but the average age of a white American is like 55.
Yep.
And the average age of a Hispanic in the United States is 11 years old.
Damn.
Wow. So for me, it was like, and for me, it all came into fruition in 2020 because of the riots. And I was on Twitter, dude. I was on Twitter for business purposes. All right. I hopped on Twitter for business purposes. Like 2 months later, COVID came and it sent to shit, a new business that I was starting up. And I kind of got sucked into like Hispanic Twitter, right? Where like these young Hispanic guys, they thought I was like a funny uncle or something. But I just kind of ended up creating a little audience there. And I was noticing how I felt like Hispanics were being split, like those who identify with the blacks and those who identify with the whites. And then you saw how people were being tempted, and one side would sling shit at the other one, and I'm like, no, 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 no. This is not your problem. This is a domestic dispute. Don't get involved. Don't think that one side's going to be more of your friend than the other side. Be a decent neighbor to both, and as long as there's respect, be a good neighbor. But don't get involved because it's not your problem. And when they're not fighting, they're more likely to team up together against your ass. So this is kind of what I was bringing to light, right? And a lot of people were kind of like, maybe it rubbed them the wrong way, but then they started thinking about it, like, oh shit, like he's right? This is the reality we see on the ground. And then I hopped on YouTube, and it just kind of started. I started talking with YouTubers in Latin America. Really, that's how it started, because they were interested in what was going on over here. So I was talking to them, and then I had a conversation with Chivo, and that kind of blew up. And this is before Chivo, or right around he did the chimp out, just slightly before, and he kind of really blew up. And then we just, a lot of people were kind of coming around, and it's just kind of grown into its own thing. But what I was saying when I hopped on was I kind of saw this dynamic. And so, I was calling it out. I was saying, like, just because you're black and someone else is black, there is no like monolithic black people. Like, people in Africa don't see themselves that way. Like, people from the Horn of Africa don't think people from the West of Africa are the same as them. Like, they don't even look alike. They look different, And I was saying the same thing about white people. Like, this is arbitrary. Like, are Russians white? Because sometimes people will say they're not. Are Italians white? Because sometimes people say they're not, right? And so it's like, again, it's this ambiguity. And I just saw it as very self-serving for the Anglo establishment. And so for me, I was kind of calling it out, where I saw, Black Americans serving as a proxy, right? To bring in this kind of Latinxer, Afro-Latino, indigenous Latino. We got to hate Spain, and I don't even necessarily care about Spain, the country itself. It's more of a historical, cultural thing for me. But at the end of the day, good or bad things that happen in history, that is what ties us, right? That's what allows a Dominican to be able to sit down with me, a Nicaraguan, and we'll go to TJ and help out an orphanage of Mexicans, right? Because we are different, but we also have something very much in common. I like to use the metaphor of like half brothers, right? Like, we have different moms, but we got the same dad. And so that's kind of what I was. And so a lot of people, they got mad because I was because I was honestly calling out West Indians on it. And I guess African Americans who fell for the West Indian voodoo. But oddly enough, some African Americans from the beginning really liked my stuff, because I guess it resonated to them that, yeah, like, just because you're black but you're from Jamaica, there is a difference. We may have some similarities, we're able to bond on some shit, but we're still different. Our interests are different, our culture is different, and that's kind of what I was saying. So when I came across you guys, I felt in a way that I was being vindicated from another angle, right? You guys have your angle, and I get it, but you guys are saying the same thing. You guys are saying, look, just because we share a certain hue doesn't mean that we're the same people. We have our own history, which is unique to us, our own unique historical experience, which is unique to us. And you guys don't even have a problem admitting, you know what, even genetics. We have Anglo and Scotch-Irish genetics, right? Like, we don't even look like Africans. So for me, it was refreshing, So yeah, man, I just kind of passed the ball to you at this point. You there? Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you, Rancho.
Okay,
bro, I apologize. My wife knows that I'm having a conversation. She keeps calling me. I don't know why the hell.
This is what, because you're not Hispanic, bro. You don't know how to control your
voice. And I just got on you about that shit, and then she just made me into an idiot. So I was listening to you up until like 20 seconds before you threw the mic to me. But look, yes, we are not the same. I used to be a Pan-African, so to speak, right? Like, oh, this this unity, this false unity that all black people are the same because we come from the same place. That was until I actually started studying Africa for myself. And then when I went there, it was so obvious that we're not the same, and they actually called me white.
Mm.
Um, so the reason why the movement that my Black American people are now starting to push is so important is because we have different political gains. We have, aims. Uh, we have different experiences.
Yeah,
So it's like
different
you can't
interests.
just say that we're all the same because a Jamaican's experience is different from my experience and the Bajans and Africans. There's always, you guys know about this tension between Black Americans and Africans, and that is never going to go away. The people that try to push this whole unity thing, it's never going to work because Africans and pretty much people as a whole tend to be tribalistic anyway.
Yeah,
So why not
that's the
love
thing
my
that I
own
always.
people, focus on our issues, and that's why the name is Defender of ADOS, because I get more shit from other black people than I've actually gotten from white people.
Yeah,
And that, I've gotten more opportunities, more business opportunities, social opportunities from whites, and I've gotten a lot of shade from black people. So it's really about lineage and what you have in common. Like I can have a very organic conversation with a Black American for hours. But if you put me to speak with an African or someone from a Caribbean place that I'm not familiar with, it's going to become a forced conversation after about a half hour. You understand?
absolutely. No, absolutely. I mean, then that's kind of again what I've always promoted is that Hispanics, if one day we become a race or whatever, that might be the consequence of something, and maybe some people argue that we kind of are already, but it's an ethnicity, and that's really what I try to put forth, and I've always said that to me, Black Americans or white Americans, they're both gringos, right? Like if a Black American goes to Iran and he sees a white American at a bar, they're going to be buddies right away. Because whether they like it or not, and maybe they may have some issues here in the United States, in Iran, they share the same ethnicity, right? Like those differences go away. And so, for us, like we always describe, I've always made an emphasis to differentiate between different types of black people, right?
Right.
We call them black gringos, or we'll call you guys Afro Saxons, which I think is apt because that's literally what you are. And because again, there is a difference. And it's interesting when I think about my interactions in these YouTube streets along these discussions, that it's always West Indians in the mix who really are the ones who take over the conversation, and they kind of start dictating and saying how it is. And the West, and I always found that interesting because, and I actually heard this on Empowering ADOS' channel, where she's like, what, the West Indians get along better with Hispanics than they get along with us. And that's kind of what I was always saying. I'm like, I know a lot of West Indians, and they live right next to us, so they kind of know how we deal, how we work. And I've always said that, but now, like when the West Indians kind of are on a power trip, I can, now that I look back, I see how they're kind of doing their Marcus Garvey thing, and they're kind of using Black Americans as kind of foot soldiers for their agenda.
They try, and that's where I come in as one of the gatekeepers with my sister. Look, I first thing, like I asked that guy, that mulatto guy, I'm like, yo, was one of your parents white? Yeah, well, you're not a Black American. You're not even Black. So what I'm doing is off the rip. When you come and you want to speak on my people, you have to be my people. Otherwise, you have a moot point. And like then people would say, well, what the hell is this Black guy doing in a Hispanic chat or on a Hispanic channel? Number one, I speak Spanish. Number two, I've lived in Puerto Rico for a couple of years, and I've studied Hispanic culture. But even at that point, like I told you in the last
lived
chat,
in Highland Park.
Yeah, and I lived in Highland Park before there was the green light on black people. But
I, I think there's a difference between like a Black American talking to a Hispanic American or a Hispanic in general, and the Black American speaking for for a Hispanic. Like I can speak
right.
to Black Americans, but I don't feel comfortable speaking on behalf of the Black American community.
Right.
And that's my exact sentiment. Like I told people, I have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So when I'm in Hispanic spaces, I listen more and I speak less, because you have to let the owners of that culture, the gatekeepers of that culture, speak, and anyone else is a guest, and you have to comport yourself as a guest. The problem with West Indians is that because we look alike and we grow up, this is really a New York thing.
A New York
They,
thing. Yep.
Yes,
Exactly.
they grow up around us in New York. They pick up our stuff, but when they go home, it's like those blood clot Yankees, right?
Yep.
And they don't have any culture, and we have a home. And I'm like, you're what you are. You just got dropped off at another place before we got dropped off in the South, you
Right.
know. But then, then it becomes the Pain Olympics, and you don't have a monopoly on slavery and shit like that. I don't really go into that, but I go into accomplishments. Marcus Garvey had to leave Jamaica to come to Black America to really get that whole
To build his
Pan-African
name.
thing started, to build up his base.
Yeah.
Africans are not Pan-African.
No.
They're tribal, they're ethnic. So
Yeah.
that whole Pan-African fantasy is really some Black American shit for people who weren't proud to be American and Black. They were always longing for some shit. And I'm like, why are you longing to go to a place where the people from that place are longing to get the hell out of? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. In fact, again, people characterize me as being racist, or, I got something against Black people on a personal level. I don't. Or though, and what's funny is that I also get it from white people that I hate white people. And I'm like, I don't. Again, I try to be a good neighbor for whoever's next to me. That doesn't mean I'm going to be foolish and let people get one over me, whether they're white or Black, whether they're Chinese, whether they're Indian, whether they're Russian, like whether they're Mexican or Cuban, like, it doesn't matter, whether they're Nicaraguan, whether they're from the same fucking town that I'm from. Right. That's besides the point. But, I kind of got distracted in my head right now. Just a lot of thoughts in my head.
New York.
Yeah, no, we were talking about the West Indian thing. Again, for me, I always kind of saw it because I when I was younger, I worked at a law firm, right? This is young Rancho, just kind of out of high school. I worked at a law firm, and there was a Nigerian attorney who worked there, and he was cool. He was cool with me. We were friendly with each other. I like to find out where people are from and like what it's like. And he's Igbo, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there was a Black American paralegal who worked in the same firm who this guy did not like. And I kind of, questioned him about it. And, he said like, he didn't see her as his people. He said, I remember once, I forgot the exact conversation, but he's like, I would never let an African American come to my house with my daughter. Like, I would never let my daughter date one of them. And that took me by surprise as a young guy, right? But then I kind of realized, like, well, the reality is ethnic. If you're in Africa, like, Blackness loses its value because everyone's Black, right?
Thank you. Wow.
It's the same thing. Like, if you're in Europe, like, whiteness loses its value because everybody's light skinned. So it's like these things, these Black and white identities make sense in the United States, where you had these two camps enforced and you couldn't mix, even though they still did. But like, it wasn't like in Latin America where it was like the swirl was almost encouraged, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, for me, again, this is kind of what I had shared, and it ruffled some feathers. I think it made people uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, it's the truth. And what I've noticed with ADOS is that you guys ruffle feathers and you make people very uncomfortable.
And we do it on purpose, because there you can get to the truth, and some people can't handle it. I'm labeled as an anti-African because I'm from New York. Some people, ADOS people, say I'm not ADOS because I have My mom's grandmother was Garifuna. But I'm just like, what the hell? So the point is just like, I'd rather deal with my people first. And then I have like this is my order, right? I'm in love with Black America. I have love for the diaspora. And my conversation with Africans, I would put it on my relationship with Africans, I would check as complicated. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it really just depends on levels of separation. My people have been so far separated from Africa that we become a new people, and not a new people that we don't have any accomplishments and anything to be proud of. Like a lot of Africans will say, they'll say, "Oh, you have no culture and this and that." No, our culture is based on new stuff, right? It always changes. Not in antiquity, like 1,000-year-old culture where you're cutting off girls' clitoris. Excuse me, female genital mutilation. I'm sorry. We don't deal with that. Oh, it's all good. Okay, you know what I'm saying. So, this ain't like fighter shit. I don't want to go too crazy, but
you can be uncensored here.
Okay, fuck that then. Let me get real black on you motherfuckers now. I'm just joking. So it's like complicated. And what you saw from that Igbo, most Black Americans have Nigerian ancestry. But it's complicated because some of us like, yo, y'all motherfuckers sold us.
Yes.
And they're not even like fucking apologetic about it. They're just like, look, it is what it is. And when people like the Pan-African will say, oh, the slaves were raided, like, motherfucker, you try to put a white guy into the DR with no sunblock, he's gonna be like running for the air code. So you take a white guy, put him in a malaria-infested, mosquito-infested jungle, and you think he's gonna find the other smaller tribes by himself? No, he had help from other Africans.
Yes,
you see what I'm saying? So it was a business. So we stand in the middle of the white man that bought and the African that sold.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if a lot of Nigerians especially have like this guilt, or they're trying to deal with their guilt by just being 10 toes down in their ignorance. But some of them say, yo, you know what, it's messed up what happened. I had a Nigerian offer me apologies off the strength. When he realized I was a Black American, he didn't even believe me at first. He said, where you from? I'm like, I'm from New York. He said, where your people from? The Caribbean? I'm like, no, they're from down south. So once he realized I was a Black American, he said, yo, I apologize for what my ancestors did to your ancestors. And I appreciated that. But there's not a lot of people that do that. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't work, like, I'm not going to try to force a relationship with someone. Fuck it. And like the Hispanics, you guys are almost like a buffer. You're not white, right? And then you don't come from people that sold my ancestors, right? So it's kind of like, say, Akon said that he had more in common with Puerto Ricans in Jersey City than he did Black Americans.
Yeah.
And he was a car thief, so I
things like
that.
this, dude. I've said things very much like this. I've said things like, it's Africans, West Africans, who should apologize first to Black Americans, because
absolutely, I want my reparations from fucking the West Coast of Africa, bro.
Dude, I said the exact same thing. I mean, like, Somalians built an empire on enslaving the interior of Africa and selling it to the Arabs, right? And now the Somalians are in like Minnesota, wherever they are, and they shit on Black Americans, and I'm like, Black Lives Matter needs to take the heat to the Somalians, because these literally made an empire of exporting blacks from the interior of Africa to Arabs in the Middle East.
Well, the thing is that with those groups, I think that they identify as POC or whatever fucking bullshit term American liberals and conservatives have made up to like kind of like lump all of these like different ethnic groups together whenever it's beneficial for them, and whenever it's not beneficial for them, they want to like draw like a very, very very bold line in between them and African Americans and other groups. On top of that, there's a bunch of people that are labeled by the U.S. Census as whites. For example, Arabs, Persians, Jews, and even like
Somalians
yeah,
are labeled white.
yeah, and those guys, those like the West Indian guys, and they're labeled as white by the U.S. Census, and they for some reason they always like try to like come into these like conversations where Black Americans and Hispanics are having conversation and try to like instigate and manipulate the conversation and try to like dictate like Rancho was saying.
Yeah, that's what I was sharing with Nakmeezy here. That when I first hopped on here, it was like, because again, I'm seeing my people import American racial ideology, right? Like, I'm not saying that Latin America is a racial paradise, but race and these type of things, they just work different, right? It just works different south of the border. I'm not saying that it doesn't hold any relevance, but it's more of a class reality, and in a sense, you can acquire the Spanishness or whatever by mixing in, and you're allowed to, right? Like it's not as polarizing as it is in the United States, right? It's just the history.
Well, Americans, they kind of like, whenever you tell them this, they kind of have a hard time like grasping this concept. They're,
They think we're
realizing
lying.
that yeah, they think that we're trying to like lie to them or try to like subvert the conversation that we're having with them so that it's beneficial for our point of view. But this is the reality of things, Rancho. I've interviewed I've interviewed several people here in Latin America. Whenever I ask them, like, what race do you identify with, they look at me like if I'm like fucking weird. Like,
they're confused.
I had a guy ask me, "Are you serious?" And I was like, "Yeah, bro." And then I had to explain to him that the reason why I was doing this was to kind of get a message across to the people in America that just everything like their whole worldview is based on race. And Americans, because they have this worldview, they project it onto the rest of the world. They think the rest of the world thinks like they do.
And they don't. The rest of the world understands ethnicity. The rest of the world understands class. And those things are much more real. I'm not saying it's better or worse, but it's a different operating system. I mean, you live in Europe now, and I'm sure you can tell that Belgians will know the difference between a Flemish and a Walloon, and they're both Belgian, right?
Bro, it goes even deeper. Like there's I live not too far outside of Rotterdam and further towards the coast. There's like these little towns and shit. They're like islands, and one island don't fuck with the other island.
Yeah.
They have different accents, different culture, but they will come together against, let's say a foreigner, like
right.
a Moroccan or a black person. And here, what's kind of refreshing here is that Moroccans are like the quote unquote N-words of Europe, of Holland. Mm-hmm. They have a worse name than black people here. So it's like, oh, okay, yeah. Profile him, don't profile me. But it's a little refreshing, but it's still messed up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Why didn't you share a little bit with my audience? They may not know what ADOS is. Why didn't you share with us a little bit about what the ADOS movement is about, and kind of what binds you guys together?
Okay, so if you can, right? Why is it important? Number one, it's important, number one, because we have a specific set of circumstances as how we became Americans, how we got to America. We were in America before America was America.
Can you tell everybody what it stands for?
American Descendants of Slavery. Now, I personally prefer FBA, Foundational Black Americans. It's the same shit because I'm not going to brand myself today as a slave. And I don't think having your ancestors enslaved is anything to be proud of. But history is what it is, right? Yeah. So why does it need to be delineated? Because we end up having Black immigrants coming, speaking for us, right? And then not consulting us or coming to America with this sort of anti-Black American rhetoric, like that Igbo You have a lot of it with Caribbeans. So we're just saying, look, we're going to embrace the fact that black people are not monolithic, that there is no flat blackness. Even if you take it to Africa, they don't describe themselves as black, they describe themselves as their ethnic group. So we, being the black ethnic group, in the most popular black ethnic group, maybe sometimes for the wrong reasons, but the most wealthy black ethnic group to ever walk this planet. And out of 15 black billionaires, 8 of them are black Americans. That's something to be proud of. So the ADOS movement is really to gain political power and also to work on reparations. And to do that, we have to start separating the flat blackness. That's over, because I don't want my check going to a Haitian. The Haitians need to speak to France for reparations, right? And I will support the Haitians in that. But what we have is that we have too many people that are not Black Americans speaking against our interests. Like, why should they get reparations? Or why should they get this? It's like, yo, bro, you came on a plane, my people came on a boat. Mind your business. Worry about banditry in Nigeria and keep
Hey
reparations
man,
out your mouth.
we have a question here. It says, so ADOS and FBA is conservatism for Black Americans. Is that correct or no?
You'd have to define conservatism.
I think what he means is kind of like, it's kind of like a more of a right wing thing than a left wing thing.
Well, look, a lot of Black Americans still drink the Democratic Kool-Aid, and we're trying to wake them up. But I do come from the school of just because I am not a liberal, I'm a proud American, and I will still respect your decision to be a liberal, even if I don't agree with it. So I don't push my own political policies, but we are trying to let our people know that the Democratic Party has not been nice to Black people. If you look at all these fucked up Black cities, and yes, my people have to take ownership of what we do to our own living spaces, then mostly run by Democrats. So yes, I would say that there is a conservative leaning in these groups.
Yeah, that's what it seems like to me. To me, again, because I grew up in Inglewood, and it's, we observed like there was a difference between, and again, I'm not trying to be disparaging here, it's just my part of my vernacular. There was a difference between Black folk and the hood niggas, right? And Black folk, like, they owned property, and like their names were like Henry something the third, and they lived in Ladera Heights type of, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And like there was like a clear difference. And I guess it's a class difference, but for me, what ADOS reminds me is like those Black folks, like Black folk, like people who had a consciousness of how their group was perceived by other groups, and like didn't want that perception to be bad. People who felt like they had, in a sense, a legacy, or they had like a weight on their shoulders to live up to, and like, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, and understand you exactly. And that's what we're trying to get back to, the days where our people knew that we were special and we acted that way. You know, and I think the world in general is kind of moving away from, morals and values. I can't save the world, but what I can do is focus on my people. Because look, a lot of these people in Miami and New York that are Crippin' and blooded, and also in California, they're not Black Americans. They're Belizeans, they're Jamaicans, they're Haitians, right? But you ask African, they call them all Black Americans. So that's why we have to delineate and say, yo, those aren't my people. Those people are, what a lot of people do, not to change the subject, but they tend to use the lowest common denominator, our Pookies and Ray Rays, to represent Black Americans. They don't talk about our scientists, our leaders of Fortune 500 companies, our business owners. They don't talk about that. The second most powerful man militarily in the world is a Black man. I believe he's the Secretary of State or the Secretary of Defense is a Black American. No one talks about that. They want to talk about Pookie and Ray Ray. I'm like, yeah, that doesn't represent my people.
Right. Right. And I mean, like we were talking earlier that Black Americans are used by, I would say the Anglo establishment, or even Jews are involved in this, as kind of a tool for social engineering, right? Like I feel like things like the more degenerate aspects of rap music were used and promoted, and I think it had a degrading effect not just on Black American society, but it's then used on other groups, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't know if you're familiar with an American. He's Irish and German. His name is E. Michael Jones. I would definitely recommend his stuff, dude. He wrote a book called The Slaughter of Cities, where he's a historian, right? He's actually he was a professor at a Catholic girls' university who got fired for being against abortion, if you can believe it. Really interesting man. I have a lot of respect for him. He wrote this book and he actually went through the archives of the Rockefeller and the Ford Foundation, and he saw how they basically force migrated blacks from the rural South into cities of the North. And they did it because blacks were forming families and having lots of kids. And the Catholic ethnic groups of the North, the Italians, the Estonians, the Lithuanians, the Germans, they had their own little enclaves where they preserved their ethnic identities. And these people were also becoming very numerous, right? This is at some point, even JFK became president, which was like a big thing, right? Because this guy was Catholic. And so he documents how this was kind of engineered and how this had a detrimental effect, not just on these Catholic ethnic groups. Again, he writes from a Catholic perspective, but he talks about how it had a detrimental effect on Black America. So it's really fascinating, and again, it's very well documented how these things were done. So I would definitely invite you to check it out. Since I'm on the subject of recommending things, one of the things you had mentioned was, like, you said you're a gatekeeper. Like you're here to draw the lines between what is a real Black American or ADOS or FBA and what isn't. And just because we share a certain percentage of melanin in our skin doesn't mean you are us. And
100% true.
yeah, that concept reminded me of a concept called the passionary by a Russian ethnosociologist named Lev Gumalev. I would really recommend his stuff. And there's a guy you may have heard, Alexander Dugin, who kind of takes some of his stuff as well. But he talks about how he's studying ethnicities, right? He's kind of like an anthropologist. And he talks about how like ethnicities go through different stages and there's kind of like a cycle to them. And he talks about this character called the passionary. And the passionary is kind of like the sheepdog, or like the sheep herder, who defines the borders of what makes the ethnicity and what is not of the ethnicity. And usually, and the example he uses was like the prophets in the Old Testament, where these guys were kind of like crazy, right? They were kind of fringe. They were kind of seen as weirdos by the society, but they were the ones kind of reminding them like who they are and like what they're supposed to live up to. And many times these guys kind of live tragic lives, right? Like I look at somebody like a Che Guevara for us, right? Who was kind of like this romantic character. And I'm divorcing him from his political views. I'm just looking at the man who kind of like, went on this kind of chaotic adventure to like, defend the ethnicity, right? And he defined his ethnicity as like this mestizo ethnicity, even though he wasn't mestizo himself, but from a cultural point of view, he considered himself such. So that's kind of what a passionary is. So I definitely would invite you to look into those. I'll shoot you some links. I think you benefit from. I think you'd like it. Ethnosociology by Lev Gumalev. Really good stuff.
No, it sounds interesting, and I like the fact that Che stood up for what he believed in. But what is the price, or what is the prize for that? Most people who stand up for an ethnic group, they suffer from lack of support. And that happens also. That also happens in Black America. You'll stand up and you'll get cut down by your own people. But either you're a fighter or you're not, right? So I understand that there's a good chance that this whole thing may not, it may not turn out to what I want. We may never get reparations cut, but doesn't mean we're not going to have the conversation or keep pushing for it. And it also doesn't mean that I'm not going to work and be a productive member of society to contribute to society, to contribute to my own and my family's well-being. So you can
I think
chew
that
bubble gum.
just having these conversations, man, is it's very good thing. I would consider it a win. Maybe it's not a win for like the whole entire war, but it's a win. It's a win over one battle, because the fact that a lot of these sentiments or these thoughts were bottled up for a very long time. I'm sure you're not the first one to start coming up with that sort of like thought, like pro Black American like thought process. And the fact that you and like other ones, I've seen a few other ones that are starting to like, voice out these thoughts and these sentiments. I think that's a very good thing. And I just wanted to say the whole thing where you were like, when Black Americans travel to other countries, they're seen as Americans. Even here in Latin America, I live in Latin America. When a Black American comes here, we all know like, oh, he's a Black American. He's not a Haitian. He's not Latino. He's American. And we do the same to Hispanic Americans. Like even the
Right.
people here in Latin America, they in Puerto Rico and in Mexico and DR, they have like a they always have like a name for like American, like Hispanics, American, Mexican Americans, Puerto Rican Americans, Dominican Americans. And the same is true for even Asians in Japan and in China. I was watching a TikTok of a South Korean, a guy with American guy with South Korean ancestry, that said that he like he didn't feel like he belonged to like either America or South Korea. But I think that's kind of foolish, right? You don't want to like be scared of your own country or be scared of the country where you live in. You want to like establish ownership of your American identity, and kind of try to make it benefit you, because instead of benefiting every other American group in America, you want it to benefit your group, and I respect that.
I like the fact that you get it, that you understand it. That's what I try to get my people to understand. Like, yo, people are coming here and they're going to take advantage of the opportunities that we take for granted. Okay, so stop that. America's bad, and they're racist. Look, racism exists all over the place. If you're gonna let that stop you from getting your bag or going forward, then the process of elimination is gonna take have its way with you. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Like, look, I'm proud of who I am, and I'm not gonna let anyone try to throw shots at my people without throwing shots back.
As
If
you
we could
should.
just have conversations like this, where there's no shots but really understanding,
Right.
this is actually the goal. But it's very hard to get my people on the same line to have a conversation like this if they're not in my ethnic group. Soon as I introduce like someone from the Caribbean that doesn't understand, or an African that doesn't understand, it turns into a shit show. While you do have Caribbeans
Well,
and Africans that
if
get it.
you're a someone who can pass off as a Black American, and you're very desperately trying to like assimilate into Black American
Mhm.
culture, to try to kind of like get in there and kind of reap some of the benefits of that belong to Black Americans, in my opinion. Then, and if someone comes and says, hey, you know what, you have your own issues, and you can probably get benefits for your issues, but you have to seek out those benefits inside of your own group, and they're not going to like it, right? you know
Yeah, they
That's
don't like it
and
because
that's
we
kind of
call them
what's happening.
tethers.
And
That's
that's
exactly
actually
what's
what's
happening.
happening. And that actually that brings up a point that I want to ask you, Knock. Um, Share with us, because again, I see the ADOS thing from as an outsider from afar. it's interesting to me. Again, I kind of explained to you how it seems to reassert a lot of the things, and I think a lot of my audience gets where you guys are coming from, because again, it seems to us that it's more of an ethnic reality rather one that's just, you know, kind of racially or phenotypically obsessed. Um, but I kind of get the sense that you guys are not liked by mainstream America. Like
Mainstream America doesn't even really know. You know, they
right.
just know who they are.
But
You know,
but
but a
where
lot of them
but
aren't
where it but
politically. Yeah,
yeah, what I've seen is that where it does, it seems to be kind of negative.
frowned upon. Yeah, and
Yeah.
motherfuckers ain't really embracing it like they should, because a lot of them embrace this whole, pie in the sky. We're all the same, and we shouldn't be divisive. No, division is natural. It's
Yes.
natural.
It's
Okay,
organic.
especially for Africans, it's natural and it's organic.
Yep.
What isn't natural is that amalgamation of different nations that some white guy named Nigeria. They're like on the brink of civil war every other goddamn week because these ethnic groups don't get along with each other. So we say, hey, let's embrace nature. Let's embrace what is organic. It doesn't bode well with this liberal utopian sense of togetherness that doesn't work anywhere. Most of the time,
And
multicultural societies don't work.
the
Yeah.
people pushing this one utopia, like one monolithic blob BS. These people can't even get like Bloods and Crips to agree with each other, or Southsiders and Northsiders, or Mex or or guys from Chicago and guys from Los Angeles or Florida and New York. They can't even agree with each other based on regional differences, or like which side of the street they grew up on. So how are they going to come and try to tell us that we have to like form this like monolithic blob and this like and have this like one world, like one race, one ethnicity like vision? It's absurd, man.
Which is something that a lot of people, a lot of people accuse us of that, but as you know, because you understand it better, mestizaje, is like we actually celebrate our mestizaje and we see how it's different, right? Like we in Mexico's mestizaje is monolithic because it's a huge country, but again, we can celebrate our differences and we can come together on what unites us, and that's a unique thing to us Hispanics here, right? And I think that's a strength, and that's what I kind of appeal to when I try to present, again, the same thing for my people, right? I'm trying to present them a political reality where they can program and they can seek their interest, right? Which I think every group should be able to do. I think the issue is that the groups that want to kind of define that for you so that you're not able to operate politically.
Well,
So
I think Rancho, that white Americans and Black Americans, and during the early days of America, they couldn't really say, "Oh, we're an ethnicity," because it was too early on in the
yeah,
process.
it wasn't allowed.
And now, yeah, and that also.
Now it is
But
out.
now, it's been 260 years. So now they can start. They're starting to form like you have like white Americans that are mixed with it, that are products of interethnic relationships between all the different ethnic groups that came from Europe, all the immigrants and the original whites, which are the Anglo settlers. And then you have the same thing with Black Americans, and they're starting to form like two ethnicities each. So white Americans that are like pro-white, and then white Americans that want to like form this like monolithic American
That are down with
ethnicity.
the swirl.
Yeah, and the same thing with Black Americans. You have the Black Americans that are pro-Black American ethnicity, and the Black Americans that want to form this like POC ethnic group.
Yep. And I don't like the person of color shit, because it just makes it seem like everything's all good between people that are not white, and that is furthest thing from the truth. Like I was saying, outside of New York,
Right.
and even in New York, you have a limited Black and brown coalition, and it starts to deteriorate as soon as Black guys start dating Hispanic girls, or
Yeah,
vice
I heard you
versa.
talk about that.
On the West Coast, there is no black and brown coalition. It's like fucking war. So pretty much outside of New York, that black and brown shit doesn't work. In Chicago, during the riots, you had, and I appreciate the Hispanics protecting their goddamn community from looters, right? But
Yeah.
that shit was that it was really, a lot of it was fueled by racial animosity, as well as a need to protect one's community. So then I say,
and
look,
gang
I don't
politics.
have to kiss the Hispanics' ass to say, yo, that's what we should be doing. Keeping our community safe, instead of destroying them shits. So I have a high hill to climb, but I'm ready to climb it.
Yeah, no, I agree. Are you? I don't. I think we talked about this before, but are you fond of Jesse Lee Peterson? Because he's kind of ADOS in his thinking.
Nah, he doesn't he seem like a little off though. He's like, no disrespect to people that don't have it all up there, but he just seems like he
He's
doesn't
kind of
have it all.
goofy.
Yeah, I don't deal with people like that. I don't really particularly like Tariq Nasheed because he's a self-admitted pimp,
Yo,
or at least he plays one.
he's weird.
I don't agree with that shit. So I one thing I don't do is I don't take one. There's no golden calves with me. I kind of go off of my own scholarship, so I can appreciate those that came before me, like our scholars and stuff. But I don't think it was in their interest. I don't think that they thought I want to create a bunch of mini me's. I think they had their views, and they would like me and my other people to create our own views based on what we're going through at that time. I'm not going to try to be the second Malcolm X. I'm trying to be the first Nakmeezy.
Yeah.
Hey,
No.
so if you said that if someone has a white parent and the other parent is Black American, that you said that they're not considered FBA or ADOS or even Black. So do you think that someone can be like a pro FBA or pro ADOS and still like date outside their race, or are you anti-race mixing, or what's going on with that?
Wow, we're going right into the deep shit. And this is where me and a lot of my FBA people start having disagreements. If you have a black parent and a white parent, you are biracial. You are not black. I said on the last stream that my ethnic group is not the dumping ground for white people rejects. Just because white people don't want them, don't mean we have to accept them. All right. So now, there's a lot of FBA that say they follow the one drop rule, which means it's actually a hexadecaroon, 1/16 of black blood,
Oh, what?
right?
A
Says that you,
hexadecaroon? That's a
yeah,
real word, huh?
hexadecaroon. You have
Hey, I'm a
biracial.
hexadecaroon, dog. I want my reparations too. Shit.
You ain't getting shit.
I'm gonna be the first
You
motherfucker
get
in
one
line. I'll be
16th
like,
of a
I'm
check.
a
Put it like that.
hexadecaroon, sir. Look at my
You get
lips.
one 16th of a check, okay?
I'll
But
take it, shit.
so now with the race mixing, so to speak, I'm against it because, like we talked about on the last stream with this mulatto dude, you give kids, you create kids that will have identity crises. Okay, do I want to be like my cool white mom or my cool black dad? And a lot of them are white men, white women, black men mixes. It's starting to change with this divesting movement, but these kids always get the reality check that, hey, you ain't black. And they always get to check. They always had to check from the white people because white people know that to protect their lineage, their assets, all right,
Yep.
and their quote unquote racial purity, they even had a racial purity act. Okay.
Right.
They said, yo, just because we fucked on your ancestors doesn't make you one of us. So now with my black Americans that claim that they're Native American, just because Native Americans of the air quotes 5 civilized tribes owned black slaves, being someone's property does not make you those people. So I am pro black in that sense. So I ain't really with the swirl shit.
Yeah, no. So you're not with the swirl shit. You're not for one drop ism. So I mean, one of the things that I joke about, Knock, I say that the future American is Drake and Doja Cat. I say that it's a Anglo black person that's Jewish. Because to kind of add on to what Messi Sahe was saying a little bit earlier was like that mixing that wasn't allowed now is, and it's happening. But it seems to me like the ADOS thing kind of puts the brakes on that. So I don't know if you've kind of thought longer term, but like, and I've asked, I went on one of your guys' stream once and I asked, like, what do you guys want, like your own country, like, or some kind of an autonomous area within the United States? Like what's a longer term political goal, would you say, for ADOS to kind of prevent the Drakening and the Doja Catting?
The Drakening of America, or his son, the Adonising of Black America.
Yeah,
that's inevitable. That's inevitable. You can't control who sleeps with someone. And as a matter of fact, if you look at prominent sports players and Black American icons, a lot of them are with white people, right?
Yeah.
So what they do is they practice mejorar la raza on themselves.
Yes.
So if you really love your blackness, you would want to practice what I call selfie reproduction, which is you want your kids to look like you.
What about for ADOS, not Black America, for the ones that are FBA and ADOS?
What about it? What was your question?
How do you prevent the Drakening or the Doja Catting, or I don't know who else is little skying of ADOS?
Well, you can't, because you can't control who people lay down with, and I wouldn't even go down that road. Mm-hmm. But technically, is if you have one ADOS parent, then you're technically Black American, right? Now I'm like this, so that means if you have one white parent and one Black parent from Black America, that makes you a Black American. I go back to my ethnic group isn't the dumping ground for rejected white people.
Because white nationalists, they're really like crying right now. Like the main thing that they're crying about is their demographics. So white demographics, declining, because they are in decline right now as we speak. And that's because, like you said, we can't control, who has sex, and whether it's out of curiosity or a preference or a fetish, whatever it may be, that it's going to happen. And this is something that the Spaniards understood, that the Anglo-British settlers did not understand. So I come from a country where if I go outside, I see every phenotype you can think of, every skin complexion that you can possibly imagine. So are you worried about the Black American, like the ADOS demographics, like declining at all because
exactly
of the races?
Yeah, and that's why I mentioned Adonis, because if you look at Drake's father, right, he looks like he could be my father, Black American. His mother is a Jew.
Right.
He gets with this like white porn star, and then his kid looks a little whiter than Chivo, whatever his name is, Chivo.
Right.
Damn. Right. So then what
Chivo's
he did
blacker than Drake's kid.
Exactly. Chivo is blacker than Drake's kid, and that's a goddamn shame. He'll turn over or he'll wild out if he hears that. But so this is what I'm saying. Drake's father probably doesn't give a shit because he chose a white woman.
Yeah.
So if he chose a white woman, you can't expect Drake to, not repeat what his father showed him is okay. And a lot of biracials, they tend to be white leaning, and the ones that are Black leaning tend to overdo it.
Yes,
like Colin
I've seen that.
Because they're overcompensating for the lack of melanin, so they gotta really nig it up, so to speak, right?
Yep.
So,
I used to call that out in high school. I'm like, dude, you're not Black, you're half white, and they would get mad. They would get mad.
They get real mad.
Yeah.
Well, we know that there's weird. Even like Native American.
Weird, dude. It was weird because these half white, half Black kids, like I went to high school in Redondo Beach, right? And like they would be talking with a Southern accent. I'm like, you're not from Georgia. Why are you talking like this? But I realized they were overcompensating because, you know, they weren't black enough. And so they thought, like, I got to talk like I'm a yin yang twin or something.
Well, Rancho, do you think that's what like Mexicans in like in certain areas of California and Texas are doing? That's like I've had Black Americans say like, "Hey, bro, like your people are saying the N word more than we do. Like, what the fuck's
Yeah.
wrong with you guys? Do you think that's what they're doing? Are they compensating for their lack of melanin, or what?
No, I mean, for me, a lot of people seem to give me shit, you know, but it's like, for me, it's like, dude. And I say dude a lot, and I'll say
No,
homie.
but Rancho, but you don't say like you don't try to like copy like the fashion that Black
I see what
Americans
you're
have.
saying. I see what you're saying. Well,
No,
you
these
do
guys
see
like
it. You do see it like with like Houston Mexicans. You do see it with like Chicago. You see it in the
New
Bay
York.
Area.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, New York.
in New York for sure. Because, and I mean, they're Antillanos, so they have more black admixture. So I feel like it's easier. Um, I think it's kind of what I was talking about earlier, where it's like you come to America and you're either white or you're black, and we're kind of like, we're not neither. So then we kind of have to like try to fit into one of those bubbles, right? But kind of the whole thing of what we're talking about on this platform is that, like, you don't have to fit into one of those bubbles. You can just be Hispanic, and whatever your percentages are is whatever they are. Like, who cares? But you
and
have,
I think that a lot of Hispanics like think that being just Hispanic is not cool enough. So to them, like they to be cool, they have to either be like kind of like go into one of these like labels or categories
yeah,
that are
because
black
they
and
want to
white.
fit in. And again, there's no, and I think in a city like Miami, you don't have that pressure, right? And I think in a city like Miami, like I remember I was talking to Christina, right, the Dominican girl, who's, you know, clearly has strong African admixture, and she thought she's black. Like she's kind of more leaning to thinking that she's black, and I'm like, she grew up in D.C., where the only Hispanics are Salvadorians, and Salvadorians don't really have a black admixture, so you don't really see those phenotypes among Salvadorians. So then she felt like, you know, she has to kind of be more black, and I'm like, if you grew up in Miami, you would never think you're black because you have an ability to be Hispanic and have that phenotype you have. You would never ever think yourself as black. And she kind of paused for a second and kind of like shook her head to what I was saying. Um, but like in a place like Miami and a place like LA, you don't really have to, you don't feel that pressure like you would say in New York or maybe in Chicago or maybe in the Bay Area or in other places, Alabama, wherever these random kids are from nowadays, because there's Hispanics everywhere. But now the phenomenon that you're seeing is that, oh, well, then you're allowed to be an Indian, right? So you have mestizos who look like me, who all of a sudden think that they're, what's the tribe that this kid thinks he is? Guachuchipe, Guapuchipe, whatever the heck it is. And it's like, yeah, you may have some of that ancestry in you, but you're not that. You're Hispanic. Your Indian ancestors Hispanicized centuries ago, bro. So
And sometimes with Hispanics, Rancho, what I've noticed is like if they can like talk and mimic like Black American mannerisms, even if they're not genetically, if they're not like 1/16 African, right? Not
yeah,
Black American, but African. They'll get accepted more than like someone that, for example, like you or me. Like I don't know exactly what like percentage I have, but I know I have African like ancestry because of the way my cousins look. My cousins could pass off as Puerto Ricans. I have
yeah,
two brothers. They're basically like these are like cousins that I consider my brothers. So and then other family members that I have in my family, and you know they have um like characteristics, racial characteristics, like curly hair, like the gum inside of their lips is darker, or like their nipples are darker, and things like that.
yeah.
So,
What the fuck?
yeah. So
He's looking at cousins
um
nipples, huh? That's real Hispanic shit.
yeah. So so that's how I know. But
Well,
since
I think
I
that
don't.
has to do with with just like how much money you got.
Thank you.
Like if you grew up in the hood,
No, it's good.
te está regañando la mujer.
No, me trae un refresco.
Ah, como la cambió. What I was saying is that I think it just has to do with your class, right? So it's like chances are if you come from Hispanic peasants who migrated north because they lost their land thanks to NAFTA, you're probably going to live in the hood. And, you know, the hood is the hood. And that's one of the other things that I've spoken about, Nakmeezy, this equation of hood culture with black American culture, right? Like, and like, I remember Tupac in the interview said this, like, he's like, oh, people think that once I make money, I'm gonna act white because I got money. But he's like, no, I'm gonna smoke blunts because that's what niggas do. I'm gonna buy me a Benz because that when he was like equating ratchetness with black.
And that's the shit that I try to get my people to wake up from, and then tell other people, like, yo, that's not the whole black experience. You understand? That's just those. Tupac was our Ray Ray.
I think you're upper echelon, man. Like Nakmeezy. I think you understand that there is an upper echelon in the Black American community, and these people don't go around acting like your average Black American stereotype is. They don't have those mannerisms. They probably speak properly. They probably dress very well. They probably eat very good. They probably have very good life. They're wealthy people.
One of the issues that reminds me, and I actually heard this from a African French chick, right? She's biracial, and she was talking about how, like, basically Africans, and I think this is true that you see this in the Black American community, where it's like our best genetics, we give them to other groups, right? So it's like if you have a Black American man who's successful, who's kind of achieved success, has a higher IQ, you know what I'm saying? He gets a white woman, you know, and so he has a Drake, and then the Drake gets with, you know, another white woman, and they have, you know, an Andy +2. And so you basically what you're doing is like you're exporting your good genetics and giving them to another group rather than keeping them within your own group and lifting up the group as a whole.
Now, why? Now we get to the meat and potatoes, because a lot of my people happen to look at non-black phenotypes as something better. That you hear us talk about self-hate a lot. You understand? Like I had this guy. His name was he was a manager. I was an assistant. This guy had like a basic Hispanic chick, right? And with a little mestizo kid, and he would treat that kid like better than his own kid. And he'd always comment on his girlfriend's skin. He's like, "Oh, she's like porcelain." But anytime he mentioned a dark-skinned woman, he'd mention like, you know, how ugly she was. And he was a dark-skinned dude himself. You know, like Kodak Black, he said he wanted a light-skinned girl. You have that a lot. Young Dolph, who just passed away, he said, I'm black as fuck or something like that. They use it in a negative stereotype. So subconsciously, they in a negative connotation, I'm sorry. So subconsciously, we don't look in the mirror and we're not happy with what we see, which is why you have some black people that bleach. That's more in Africa and the Caribbean. Right. But that's why I say, like, look in the mirror and love yourself, you know. But I can't change the psyche of people. All I can do is surround myself with people that are forward thinking. Like, I'm not going to play around in the hood, you know what I'm saying, trying to save people who can't be saved. But if I have the ear, if I see a twinkle in someone's eye in the hood and I say, yo, this kid, he's listening, he got it. Those are the ones that I'm going to try to help. And I actually do that. I'm an activist. Go on.
I think it's hard to kind of like change people's mindsets. When you have people or guys and young girls that kind of have this attitude where, like, oh, if you take the boy out of the hood, you still can't take the hood out of the boy. That's kind of like it's very hard to kind of like raise these people's state of mind to like a higher a higher state of consciousness. And you know, I don't want to sound cruel here, but you know, the more of them there is, you know, the higher my chance of getting to that upper echelon, that upper state of consciousness is. But if, like you said, if I see that someone can you know, understand the message, or someone is confused, and if I can kick some knowledge to their ear, then I'll do so, man.
Yeah, if you have a listening ear, you know, we shouldn't cast pearls to swine. And look, I've done community projects here in Holland, like real talk. I done, you know, black people, we like to do the whole backpack drive and all of that shit. I did backpacks, gift cards, sneakers, free haircuts, braids, all sorts of activities and shit. And it came out my pocket.
For
These
blacks in
same
Holland?
parents, yeah, there's mad blacks in Holland too. It's only 22%, but you can't walk in a major city in Holland without seeing a black person. That's 100%
And most
fact.
of them are like Ghanaian?
You have Ghanaians,
Yeah,
but
Ghanaians.
they're mostly like Surinamese. And a Surinamese is basically a Ghanaian that took the trip on a boat.
That's right. Suriname.
Yeah,
Okay.
Suriname.
Yeah.
But yo, the kids love it. They were going to school with the fresh kicks and a fresh backpack. The parents would see me in the supermarket and cut to another aisle. I'm like, you ungrateful bastard.
What?
Right? I could have kept that money in my house. But that's what I'm saying. I learned, you know, that instead of trying to save globally, you have to really see who, you know, gives you a listening ear and who has potential. And there you'll make your greatest impact. So it's really quality over quantity. So that's how I work now.
Yeah. Yeah, for us it's interesting just to kind of, you know, share with you. It's like we're Hispanics are meeting each other in the United States, right? Like you know, obviously we travel within our countries, but what usually happens is if we end up getting stuck in one of our neighboring countries, we just kind of become that, right? Like, so a Mexican engineer gets a job in Ecuador and takes an Ecuadorian wife and has Ecuadorian kids, and he becomes Ecuadorian after a little while, right? That happens kind of easily. But what's happening in the United States is that we're actually meeting outside of Latin America. And, you know, sometimes there's conflicts, but overall, what ends up happening is that we end up coalescing, right? And especially in my generation, you saw that a lot. So for me, as I kind of look into the future, I think like what's kind of happening here is that we're kind of developing a new Hispanic country that, you know, might be overwhelmingly Mexican in some regions, Cubans in other, or Puerto Rican, Dominican in another, but like it's kind of post these things at the same time, right? It's like it's obviously you're going to have influence of America within these people, even myself, you know. But that's kind of how I see the future developing. And so it's like you have a new country springing in kind of this Anglo context, and it kind of serves as a bridge between these two worlds. But overall, I mean, you know, I kind of just try to have these conversations that may make people uncomfortable now, because I feel like if we start having this conversation now, then we'll be able to deal with the tension when the tension gets hot, right? It's really more a matter of kind of like seeking peace, where it's like, okay, look, man, it is what it is. We're going to come to the negotiating table, and we got to live next to each other, and our kids are going to play, you know, across the street. Like, how do we want to program? How do we want to deal with each other? We don't have to get in each other's business. We don't have to hate each other. But, you know, what is the program that we're going to employ to be decent neighbors to each other? And that's really what I kind of try to introduce early on.
Would you say that? Would you say that it's kind of like a community meeting, but instead of, you know, it being for a community, it's for like a whole nation? Because, you know, whatever the U.S. government is doing right now, man, it's clearly not working. Because the only thing that they've done is they've got a whole bunch of people to say that Kyle Rittenhouse was guilty, a murderer, blah blah blah, this and that. And all of those people got fucking owned, and they look fucking stupid when he got you know, to walk free, because, you know, the world doesn't work how they think it works. And what they're really doing is, instead of like fighting racism, they're creating thousands of white nationalists. About like 5 years ago, there has always been white nationalism and racism, but there wasn't so many. Now there's like a whole bunch of them that are they're like soft, what I would call, they're into like soft white nationalism, and because of whatever is going on in America, this whole like attack whitey thing, it's not working. That's not working. What it's doing is making a lot of these like soft white nationalists be like, you know what, they fucking hate us. Like we have no option. We might as well. And the whole calling them colonizers and conquerors, that's exactly what they like. I don't think that a lot of these American people realize that when you call white nationalists colonizers and conquerors, they kind of like it. In fact, a lot of them they brag about it.
Thank you. They're like, yeah, we took your shit. You ain't do nothing about it. Hey, real quick, I wanted to ask this guy Henry. He said, shout out to Curacao national baseball team. My wife is from Curacao, actually. So I don't know if this guy's from Curacao, but most people never even heard of that island. So if he is, write some papiamento in the chat. I can speak papiamento as well. But what did somebody say here?
Yeah,
oh
Henry,
yeah, cumbia.
Henry's
Yo, cumbia.
Dominican.
Let me change the direction real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
What's better? Because I fuck with Mexican cumbia. I don't really like Colombian cumbia, right? I like los chavos JG, Grupo Soñador. What's that shit called? Soy de Puebla. I like those. The Colombian shits. What say you guys?
So you really are a beaner, dog.
Yeah,
that's
just
funny.
a little. I got a couple.
I like more of the old cumbia from Colombia, like the shit from the ranches. Not like the shit from the 80s that was like very commercial, but like that shit that sounds like they're in a little bar or cantina with dirt floors. That's the type of stuff I like. I do like the Mexican stuff. I do appreciate it, but I'm more of like a classic type of guy.
Well, somebody wrote they like tumba from Curacao, and tumba, that shit it's very Africanized, but that shit is hot. If you like tumba, you should Google or YouTube Zoyoyo, ZOJOJO. It looks like Zojojo, but it's Zoyoyo.
Yeah,
she's got some good tumba songs. But I like Mexican cumbia. I ain't gonna front. I walked into a deli in Astoria, Queens, and that shit was playing. I'm like, yo, what's that? So the dude that made my sandwich, this Mexican dude, he said, you like it? I said, yeah. He's like, yo, here's the CD. He just gave it to me off the rip. So this is where like common interest, or at least showing interest in someone else's culture, is a huge icebreaker. And as a matter of fact, I asked him in Spanish. So language also plays a big role. So at that point, he didn't really see me as a Pookie or a Ray Ray. He saw me as someone that he, number one, could communicate with. Number two, someone that found something in his culture cool, and that was the ultimate icebreaker. So if we're really gonna break the ice, we have to do it and really kind of show interest in the other culture, or at least show respect, right? Yeah. If you're not gonna like it, at least, if my wife makes something that I don't like to eat, I'm not gonna have a shit face when I eat it. I'll just eat it up. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want to, hurt her feelings. If she was a bad cook, she's not. But you see what I'm saying? It's not like, oh, these fucking mayates, they fucking are walking around here with their pants hanging down and say, like.
hey, I just
that was pretty good, right?
Yeah, that was authentic. Since you brought up that word, since you used it, I want to just tell you something, man. So those guys that use it, they're Americanized Mexicans, or Mexican Americans, or Mexican immigrants that have been living in America, and it's mostly in the West Coast. They're kind of like, a lot of them are Chicanos, or they've been influenced by Chicanos, and that word here in Mexico, like Mexicans use it towards each other, and what it means is like a guy that has sex with like trannies and fags, but they
Damn.
don't like take it in the butt. They just like give it to the trannies in the butt, but they don't take it. That's what that word means here in
So
Mexico.
they're pictures, but not
You made it
catchers.
worse. God damn, I'd rather just be the N-word.
No, but yeah, but Mexicans will call each other that. They'll be like, it's they kind of use it to like say you're a fag. So they'll be like, eres un pinche mayate, but it doesn't mean like it has nothing to do with race.
With
Wow.
how they use it up
Okay, I
north.
learned something.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I should probably be logging off soon. I know Nak, you probably got stuff to do. Miss Isaiah as well. It's been refreshing, man. Honestly, for a while, dude. For a while, I have been asking, like, I like talking to people who you would assume that like we don't have anything in common with, or that we can't build rapport with, because again, my intention is to try to start having conversations earlier so that they don't break out in fights later, right? And so I've been kind of wanting to be able to talk to someone Black American, right? Not because I know the difference. Where I can actually have an interesting intellectual conversation with. So I appreciate you, and I'm glad we finally were able to connect. I know we see each other on Fighter Stream sometimes, but it's nice to finally be able to rap together on this stuff.
It
Yeah,
started
man.
out as like trying to set up a debate, right? But then I'm like, I don't disagree with what this guy's saying, because everybody's like, yo, Rancho, that's the guy you can debate. Like
Yeah.
they just thought you needed to debate a black dude, but we're not monolithic. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Some of us
no,
are operating on a higher plane. I
right.
like having intelligent conversations in front of an intelligent audience and an intelligent chat. I like to fuck shit too. We could do that on Fighters, but this one, like when I spoke, someone got quiet. We gave each other the respect of having an adult conversation, and that's refreshing. So
Yeah.
anytime you ever have a topic and you want the opinion of a black guy, I'll be your token.
Yeah. Of ADOS.
Hey man,
Of
I just
ADOS,
wanted to
yeah.
say that the reason why like me and like most of the guys I interact with and girls, we don't use Latino is because we don't speak Latin, and like what you said, we're not a monolithic like Latino's not really. It's a more it's a broader term than Hispanic. Hispanic is it's talking about a specific ethnicity. If you use Latino, that includes a bunch of different ethnic groups from Europe.
Right.
Wow, I learned
States.
something else new. All right,
Yeah.
y'all. I have a wife.
Yeah.
Not
No,
every black
enjoy it.
American. Not every black American is has kids out of
As a
wedlock,
baby
right?
mama.
As a baby mama, I have a wife, and the crazy shit is that my wife was fucking 7 months pregnant when we got married because I refused to have a kid out of wedlock.
Nice,
So
man.
she had a big ass fucking
Right
belly.
on
And,
time. Right on
yeah,
time.
right on time for real. All right, y'all. So I'll see
Yeah.
you guys later, and
Yeah. God bless you, bro.
I'll see you on Fighter stream later.
All right, man. Peace.
Cool.